Yeah, so here we are. It's Friday. Time to put on a movie. And this week it was mostly, well, what was I doing? I was getting the gas tank. I got the gas tank back into the car. You can see that later. And then I decided I'd take the fuel. I bought an electric fuel pump, so I put it in the back here, right up next to the gas tank. You'll see that later too. And then I decided that I should run an electric wire to it. So I went to the ignition switch to try and find an electric wire, and I found a burnt wire. And that led to all of this. So you can see what happened. I think I got it sorted out mostly, and it's just a matter of putting it all back together again now. So, hope you enjoy it. Stick around and see what goes on. Bye for now. Yeah, here's now line number 1 made up. I hope. So I've got a good bubble flare on there. There's a sample of a good bubble flare right there. So I got one made on there. And then I copied that line all the way down. I got a good bubble flare. Where is that thing? Oops. Tough to get that to focus in there. There, a good bubble flare made on that thing. Anyhow, now I made those bubble flares in this contraption here. Took me a long time to figure it out. So you put it in 3/16, says 3/16 DIN there. It's kind of got a flat thing there. So this end here is for making double flare. This one here is for making bubble flare. So you put your pipe. Where's a piece of pipe? Here's a piece of pipe. Hang on. I gotta just set you down here for a second. I've got this piece of pipe. You put the pipe in here. Set law. Where am I? Whoops. And it disappears onto the ground. Oh dear. Let me just get it set up here. Yeah, here now I've got it set up. So you get the pipe brake line through here, right? Then you got this thing called Operation 0 right there, which you just use and then press it in the pipe. And that makes it so it's a flat surface there. Then tighten it down good on the top here, right? Then you go on here, you find 3/16 pipe, which is what I have, Operation 1, and you pull the lever. Take it all apart again. It's actually a nice little machine. And there, voila, you have a nice little bubble flare there. So that's all right with me. Now, last time I was making bubble flares, I went to Canadian Tire and they have a machine there that they'll lend you. But it's not a really great machine. You have to, you get one good one out of 3 bad ones. So this one here, it seems to be pretty consistent, making them all the time. So I'm happy with it, and it was likely worth the money to go and get it. It's called, what's it called? 4 Lifetimes. Professional Turret Flare Tool. And it's really not that expensive. I think it was only like, $100. There's no instructions really that come with it. You have to sort of figure it out yourself. It says down here, ISO bubble flare. Tube, 3/16. Punch is a 3/16. And the DIN is 3/16. So then you have to sort of figure out what the punch is here. So it's got there's a 4.75 millimeter punch here, which was what I was using, but the pipe is actually 3/16. So you turn it to 3/16 and it works right then. Makes a nice bubble flare, and so I'm happy with that. So that's pipe number 1 done, which is a day's work figuring out how to run the damn thing. Yeah, there now, that's the tube going right down across there. Gets onto the back wall. Hopefully it's not going to be in the way of anything there. And then there's a clippy thing here that I was able to put back in. There's a clippy thing over there. I'll show you. Clippy thing right here that it fits into right there. Then this piece of protection goes on it just because it touches on the wall there. And then I've got it tight down here. I don't know if you can see all that. This is where it connects into the brake system, and then it goes across on top of the transmission, over the top of the transmission, underneath the heater hoses. I think those heater hoses are fairly new. They don't look like they've had too much tough life. There is a better look at it. You're not looking up here. So there, yeah, so it goes across and into over the heater hoses and down the other side into that clippy thing that you can see from here. You can sort of see it right about there somewhere by that white wire. Anyway, hopefully that's good. Yeah, so here's where the other end comes out, right down in here. And that's actually in a fairly good spot. Now, the next piece hooks onto there. There's a junction that goes right here. And then the next piece cuts across and goes down all the way along there. So I've got this, the original piece here. Here's the original for that first piece. And I've got the original for the second one here too, here to here. So it's got to have a kind of a different kind of flare on that, a double flare on that to fit into the thing at the other end. So I'll get that figured out. Yeah, now here we are. That's rear brake line in. So that's the junction there, which I put in back in there the way it was originally. I think it's original anyhow. And then the line follows along and joins into all the spots, and then it comes down off the top here and hooks into, this is where it goes to the rear axle. So now I'll just put the nut and bolt on that thing there, and I'll put a piece of tape on it to keep it clean until I get the axle up there. That nut and bolt's on. Wonder where it is. Only I had it a minute ago. There it is. So there's the nut and bolt that came off the nut that came off the original one. So I'll put that on. That'll be good. Yeah, no, there's side. What's this? Passenger side. Right-hand side. That brake line will go to the, from this rubber to the calipers, right? Now I'll show you how I made that. I've got a piece of pipe cut that long. Clean the ends, and you just take this thing here and sort of ream out the end a bit, make sure there's nothing left in there. Then this bit here from the old pipe, this is from the old fitting that was on there. So at this end here, it's like a double flare, double flare at this end, which I'll make. And then the other end is what you call a bubble flare at that end, which I'll make. But this fitting here, I only have these fittings that came off of the machine. Now I could have used a fitting like this and put it together that way, but I'll use the old fitting, and I've cleaned it up so they look good. I'll show you how. Like I just wind up the grinder, and that cleans them off pretty nice. Flat side. So I'll do a bit more of that. Yeah, so there's that fitting cleaned up, and it goes on here. Now this piece here, to make a double flare, you have your, oops, get that turned around the right way. Get that turned around the right way. 3/16, and on like down here it says 45-degree angle on it, right? So you put your 3/16 in there. Then you put your, now this might start taking 5 hands here. The pipe goes in right there, right? Then this other half goes on top. I'll get that on there. Take a look at my fingers for a second. So that's how it kind of goes in there. And you leave some hanging out at that end there. See that? Leave some hanging out there. Then I'll flip this thing over to hold it down. And that all holds it together like that. So this thing here, then you tighten it a tiny bit down. And then it's got operation 0 here. So you push on operation 0. And that brings that flat, everything flat. Tighten that thing down. Go to 3/16 operation 1, little thing there. Pull on that handle, right? And that makes the first half of the flare in there. Then you go to 3/16 operation 2, and that makes the second half of the flare in there. Now, pull this off. Should all come, whoops. There it is on the floor. So there's a very nice little bubble flare there. So that's, I'll show you here, right? That's the bubble flare that I made. And there's a factory bubble flare there. They look like they're pretty close to the same thing. Double flare. That's a double flare that I made here. And that one there is a factory double flare. So then the other end needs what they call a bubble flare, and it's got to have a fitting like this on it. Whoops. Can you see that? Yeah, there, that fitting. Now let me get the thing set up. So now I've got this block turned around the other way, and it's got a kind of a square end in there, and it's called DIN, D-I-N, for European type stuff. And I've got that slightly just snug. Operation 0 is that flat part there, and you just push in with the flat part, and it makes everything come together there. Tighten down on this thing, so everything is tight in there. And then you go to operation 1, 3/16 operation 1, and that's all you need for this is that, and that would be a bubble flare in there. I'll show you after I get it out of here, without breaking anything, hey? I won't drop it all on the floor this time. So now there, whoops, where is it? There, that's what you call a bubble flare. And it sits up like that. So that's a bubble flare from me. Here's one from, can't see it very well, but here's one from the factory. They look pretty near the same. That's what it looks like at the end. And that's what it looks like at the end. So now this piece, this pipe here, has got this fitting here that goes up to the, oh, whatever you call that, up to the rubber hose. So the rubber hose here comes onto the spring, and it's got the end that fits into here. And then the other end will fit into the brake caliper, which is right here. When that goes on, this will fit in there. So I'll just put the bends in it, and then all you do for the bending is just follow the, here's the one that came out. So I'll make bends, whoops, I'll make bends approximately like that to go back into it and see how things work out. Yeah, no, so there you go. It's on up here, and then this comes down, it'll go into the caliper. I'll get that bent around to the right way before I finish it up and tightening anything down. Anyhow, hopefully it works. Yeah, anyway, that's all for today, and we'll get back again tomorrow or sometime. More work on it. Yeah, here's something interesting. Now this tab, there's 1, 2, 3 tabs that hold on that exhaust pipe from down below. Now, this one here was broken, and I was able to screw that stud in there. I built a stud for it, and I was able to screw that in. And then I just put weld over the outside to kind of hold it in there. I put a nut on this end of it so the downward pressure would be pulling down on it, not outward pressure on it. So it might hold. Welding on the cast usually doesn't work very well. It doesn't stick very well. I guess one thing that I do know is that if you preheat it, and so I preheated it with a propane torch, so it's pretty nice and warm, and then weld it on there, and that keeps it from cracking. So there's no cracking, and there was no tinging. So maybe it'll hold, maybe it won't. And at the very worst, I'll have to go get a new one of these. Yeah, so there you go. That's got a nut on there now that'll swing on and off. And I had one on there, but it got jammed on there, so I had to cut the nut off. And then I was in a quandary of what to do about that all. So anyhow, I got it done. At the worst, I'd have to drill that out and rethread it and blah, blah, blah. But I think we're okay for the whole thing now. Yeah, now while it's, there's no, what do you call that thing? There's no manifold on there right now. Nothing in the way. So it's a good opportunity to clean up the starter and put it back in there and make sure I got my wiring figured out for it. Yeah, now, I don't know if you remember from way back in episode 1 maybe, or maybe episode 2, I had this starter off and tried to get figured out why it wasn't engaging the way I thought it should. And these wires here were very loose. They kept falling off. So what I'll do is I'll solder a piece onto here, and I'll solder a wire onto here, then I'll run them out to a, that long to a connector, so I can just connect the two of them together, and both at once will get on there. That'll make it so that it's a solid connection and should last, maybe, who knows. There you know, I soldered a piece of wire on there. This one here I taped it up, and then I put a piece of shrink wrap here just to hold the tape tight. This one here was small enough I had a piece of shrink wrap that it fit right on there, and that's a good thing. Now I'll sort of tape them together and bring them up to here, and then I'll put a connector on them of some sort. Yeah, there you go. That ugly yellowness is gone now, and I'm back to a black starter. So I'm gonna just rewire this while that stuff's drying, and then I'll stick it in the car. Yeah, now there's a little connector on there. It's got two ends coming into it. So this is the big wire, and this is the smaller wire. On the car side, it's been repaired 100 times. Like there's the small wire going to that kind of an end, which has been repaired before. And this one here has got like 3 chunks on it. I don't know what's going on there. Likely I put one of them on, who knows. Anyway, I'll cut them both off right about there, and then that'll be just about right for that connector piece. Yeah, now, so I pulled, here's the wires that I fixed at the other end. Then I pulled them all through from that side over to here just to see how, because this wire here, very brittle. As soon as you bend it, it breaks. Well, not right there, but in other places. And I see that down here, it's had a little bit of a rough life sitting up against something hot. So likely, if I cut it, it seems to be good back here. So if I cut it here and rejoin it with a new piece of wire, excuse me, then that'll likely make a better connection there, and that'll solve that thing. Anyhow, need quite a chunk of wire there. Yeah, no, I finally got that wire repaired. Not the greatest looking solder job in the world, but it's a hot connection. It's a good connection, and I'll tape it all up and put all this wiring back together and see where we go from there. Yeah, there's the starter in there now. It's all wired up, and I've got the wire that was broken on the other side there. I got that fixed up and cleaned up to the other side. I see this one here, there's a bare wire there. I can see, I'll have to fix that. Yeah, I started this whole thing with fixing up on the exhaust manifold. So there it is there. I've got the, what do you call those things? I got gaskets for it. Either way, I'll need them someday. There's all the gaskets for it right here. So I'll go ahead and I'll install this. See how it comes around. There, now I've just put a little bit of that gasket cement stuff, like ultra copper gasket maker for, like, it's for exhausts, but I just put a little dab on it to hold that on while I'm installing. Yeah, so now it's have to make some bolts for the what do you call that thing, the manifold to hold on to. So now they have to be, thought I had one here, somewhere around here. I've got one new one there, three new ones, one on the underside. I need another 3 new ones on the other side there. The old ones were slightly worn out. And so here's an old one here. See, the thread's not as sharp on it as it used to be when it started. So the ones now, I had bolts, the right size bolts, but too long, and only threaded that far. So there's 3/8 and 16s, and they all have to fit into this nut here. If they fit that nut, they're good. So then you just put this on. I put some oil on there. I put this on and then thread it down to, like, it's pretty easy threading until you get down to where it's got to cut the new threads in. So you just keep turning it down. And anyway, I'll show you what I've done. Yeah, there, that's threaded all the way down as far as I need to go. Now you just unthread it, pull it off. Don't be scared of using oil on the damn thing, because otherwise it'll tighten up. It gets hot, tightens up. A little bit of oil makes it run. And then if you want to use, like, a little bit hard work to pull these things down, but if you use a pry bar on them or a extra length, you got to break something in there. So if you can't sort of force this stuff, or else that die will break on you, and you don't want that to happen. Anyway, there it is. There's the stuff off it, and then this nut threads all the way down to the bottom. Yay! So there, that's, I often have the right size stock and it's the wrong length, or else I have the right size stock and the wrong thread. So I've found this to be kind of a handy toolkit to have this tap and die thing here that I can make, either change the thread or else cut them longer or shorter, whatever you need. So now I'll just take the thing, I'll take the cut-off saw and I'll just take that, cut it off there, all the same length as this one, because that's the length they have to be. Then I'll clean them up on the sander, on the grinder over there. I'll clean up the edges and see if they work. Yeah, there you go, 3 of them made, and I just cleaned up the ends of them a little bit. They're about the right height. So I'll get the last 3 of them into the manifold over there. They're going into aluminum, so you can't be too tough on them, eh? Yeah, so there now. Excuse me, this one over here and this hole over here are both stripped. The threads don't hold on them. This one here, I can put a nut on the back side of it here. This one here, don't know what that thing there is for, but I might be able to get a nut into there on the back side of it. I might get a half a nut in there. We'll just see. But that means got to go back to the drawing board and make more bolts. I need longer ones to be able to go right through. Yeah, so what I did was I've got a smaller diameter bolt that goes right through, and then this nut will sit right next to that shoulder and holds it tight, so it's in there relatively flat and tight. Now, and I'll do the same on this one here, except it needs a bit shorter bolt. Anyway, We'll get it figured. Yeah, again, here's the bolt that I'm starting with. It's I'm going to thread it down to about here, and then I'll cut it off to the right length. Yeah, now there's that one in there, and it's actually looking pretty good. I modified the nut so that it would sit, it was not as deep. So I'm going to take this one off of here and change and just smooth off the edge side of that nut so that it sits into that groove better. Yeah, now I'm feeling better about that. I cut off the, you can see where I smoothed off the edge of that nut there so it would fit against that bevel a little bit nicer. And then this one over here, it's modified at the back so that it fits against the back a bit better and should be good. Custom made bolts for the hold it all together. We'll see how it works out. Now there's also the welding work I did down below there on the bottom there where the one bolt goes through. We'll see how that makes out over days. Anyhow, that's the manifold back in there and the starter back in. And that's the end of today. That's a whole day just doing that. So anyway, there's the brake line all the way in there and the return fuel line. And I put some clamps for to hold the return fuel lines on there. Then I just tie wrapped the brake line to the fuel line so that it's good. But you know how I love doing things twice. I was cutting that fuel line off right there and I nicked the brake line right here. So I'm going to take the brake line down and redo this end and put it back up there. Oh well. Yeah, there that's repaired, and fuel line, that's return fuel line, follows along the tunnel here and it goes up and it meets that rubber hose right up there, which I'll put a new hose on after. Then I'm gonna make this corner here with the rubber, right there with the rubber, and then I'll go around and it hooks in up there somewhere, so I'll get it around about halfway and then run a rubber hose up beside the tank. Yeah, now did I show you this? I've got that back into place up there now, and I've got this extra hose, whoops, going around there, and that'll go up to the top of the tank there later. Right now I've got the tank. I think next I'm ready to put the tank into it. I've got this, I don't know if any of you ever watched the BMW stuff, but the tank took a lot of work there, and I steamed it out before I was finished with it, or during the course of the operation. This one here, I've repaired it right here, and right in here I've repaired it just with soldering and copper there. Little copper patch with solder on it. And then otherwise I've just cleaned it off and made it look good, and it doesn't seem to leak anywhere else. I've got this is the inlet side here, and it's covered up with I've got a thing covering it there. If actually that's one of the cylinders out of the brake caliper on the front. Anyway, seems to be the right size. So now I just put the steam to it. I've got this just a household steamer, and I kind of got a dead man switch on it there, so it just runs. I don't have to sit there. And quite a bit of steam. There's have to fish that thing out of there. Quite a bit of steam comes out of that, so I just let it steam up, and that'll clean up some of the inside. I'll put some water in there, swish it around. Here's what's come out of it. This was the this fluid here is rust remover fluid, and it does a pretty good job, because that's I can go panning for gold in there, eh? Yep, no gold. Lots of heavy metal, but no gold. Anyway, there's the remainder of the heavy metal right there, and it's pretty smelly. A little bit spilled on the floor there. So anyway, that stuff there, that's pretty well garbage there. I'll throw it outside, or throw it in the garbage, and that'll be good. Yeah, there I got that piece fished out of there. Just I got it to close to the right spot, and then a pair of pliers on it. See if I can see into there now. Torch on. Can you see in there? A little bit. There's some rust still at the back there, but a lot of it's pretty clean that I can see, so I'm gonna have to call that the way it is right now. Yeah, there we go. It's all cleaned out. I put a rubber hose with a little steel thing beside it. This is a heater hose. Heater hose in the, not been used on a heater yet, obviously. So I just put a rubber hose with a steel thing beside it, and then I could use it as a vacuum in there and vacuumed out all the water. It seemed to work pretty good because it's pretty dry in there now. And it looks not bad in there. It's not perfect, but I don't think anything will be with this car. If you want perfect, you gotta go get a new car, I guess. Hey, maybe not. You can get pretty good with this stuff. I'll just turn on that light. Well, how do you turn on that light? Torch on. Now, I don't know if you can see in there. What happens in there? Pretty sad looking. Oh, there we are. Oh, that's outside. There's inside. Yeah, see, there's inside. It's not too bad looking in there. There's you can see the intake over there. See the top of the tank. So yeah, I think we're all right. There's some surface rust on it, indeed on the bottom there, and I'll just make sure I keep it full of gas. It'll be good. Yeah, so I cleaned this up here. I just used the little tool on the end of a Dremel. Clean that up, and I did get a new sending unit for it and a new gasket and bung cover for it. So I'll just see if I can get that installed. Hang on. I'll see about... Yeah, here's the new sending unit. So it's got two electrical connections and a ground. The ground was rusted off the old one, and so was this tube rusted off the old one. And it's got a little sieve type filter at the bottom there. It'll only fit one way. There's a tab there and a tab there. That'll only allow it to fit one way, and you just slide it in there. And if a guy were smart, he would have put the gasket on first, but I'm not that smart. So here's the gasket. It goes underneath there. I'll just take it out and do that. And now the gasket's in there, and then this little part here goes on. And I don't know if you've ever used a 45-gallon drum, you know how these things work. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you just turn that on, and then take a hammer, and not a hammer, but just a screwdriver and a chisel, and push it. And as this turns, it creates pressure. There's a ridge here. It creates a pressure on the ridge and then pushes that in and seals it. So then it's good. Made in somewhere. Anyway, I'll pound that around. No, I won't pound it. I'll just take a screwdriver and give it a little bit of a move. Yeah, there, that's turned in. Now, there's a little tab here, and a little tab here, and a little tab here. Where's this one? This tab here doesn't seem to hold as well as the other ones do. So, I don't know what to do about that yet. I've got it, I kind of bent it over a little bit more, and then tried it again, but I don't think I'm satisfied with it yet. Yeah, it seems to be down pretty well even all the way. I guess what we'll do is I'll do a bit of a pressure test on it and see if it holds there. Yeah, there, it's in there now. I did put a little bit of that blue Permatex in there on both sides just to give it a extra bit. I took it out and I bent over this one tab a little bit more. All the tabs seem to be catching it now, and I'll just wait and see. I don't want to take the tank out of it again, that's for sure, but if I have to, I will. Anyhow, that's life. Yeah, so these that's a hard to find part in North America. But if you're having trouble finding parts for this thing here, and most of the parts you can get from a couple of distributors in North America, Moss Motors and Northeast Distributors, or I think they're called Northeast or Northwest Parts or something like that. And then there's a place called Rimmer Brothers out of England, and they send over stuff, and it's just as quick as anybody else to get here. And they've got all these lights, where parking lights that go in there, and things like that. They've got all that stuff, and it's at a reasonable price. It's not cheap, that's for sure, but it's not that expensive. Anyhow, so those are the 3 suppliers that I use. And then if you want carburetor parts, SU Carburetors, this guy here, Joe Curto Inc. And he's the nicest man in the world. He phoned you up and asked you just exactly what you want and looks after you pretty good. And he sent up carburetor kits for this. I haven't got them installed yet. Don't know if I'm going to have success with that or send him the whole carburetors. We'll see. Yeah, that's all set to go. This one here, this hose goes to a little tank up in the car, and then the main hose comes over. The other hose that I was installing earlier, the return hose, goes to that tank also. So I'll figure that out before I put this in. Now, next is I also got those double-ended bolts. I wonder what I did with them. Up here somewhere. In this bag here. Nope. Yeah, there. Oh, those are nuts for it. Yeah, there's the bolts. They go into the car. I'll put them into the car, and then I've got the straps for it over there somewhere, and they're good. So I'll put these. This is next that goes into the car. Yeah, no, there's the first nut through from the bottom. Now, it's quite a contraption to get that on there, so I did built a little thing, hey? There's my gizmo. So that's a pair of vice grips hooked on there, and then I've got a socket holding that thing up into the, see that hole over there? There's where the other one goes. This one here goes here, and a socket holding that up into that hole, and then I was able to get the nut on the other side. So now I'll have to put a wrench on the top side and reef on this one from the bottom. See what happens. Yeah, there's all those pillar bolts in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I had a bit of a gizmo hooked on to hold them up there while I got the nut on the top, and then put a holding wrench on the top of it. I'll show you that. And hit it with the, like there's the holding wrench on the top of it, right there. Then hit it with the impact wrench, like the little impact wrench, and tighten them up. Then double check them with this hand wrench when I'm done, and it seems to be all right. Anyway, there you go. There. Now there's the little air thing, the thing where the return fuel comes to. I imagine it's just can't be too much fuel that's in there. It's just a matter of vapor going through. So anyway, there is where it goes to. The big hose goes on the outside here, and the little hose goes from the tank to the inside. So I'll get that sorted out before I put the tank in. I'll get the first hose up and in there. Anyway, there you go. That's all for today. It's pretty dark outside, so it must be the end of the day. So we'll carry. Yeah, I cut myself off there. So we'll carry on tomorrow and see where we go from there. Yeah, there's some soapy water. So I just took some soapy water, and then I need 2 hands for this. So I blew in. I've got this sealed with the cap, right? I've got this hose on here that goes to the like the air return, whatever they call that. Then down in here, you can't see that very well on that side, but I had it there. Look in the mirror, see? The that part there, where I've got the the bung holding it in there. So I blew in here and put pressure into the tank, enough pressure, maybe a couple of pounds of pressure into the tank. And then I put soapy water on that thing, and I put soapy water on this seal, and I put soapy water on this seal, and soapy water on this seal. It's all good. Anyhow, so I'm happy with that. Yeah, so I got a bit ahead of you here. I've got this tank back in most of the way. I've still got to tighten the bolts down below. I'll bring the car up and show you how it looks from down below. Then I've just got this held in with one screw until after I paint it. I'll make that so I can paint that properly in there. Anyway, up it goes. Yeah, now there's like one bolt there, and the strap goes across the bolt over here, and 2, 3, 4. This is in, and I've just got a rubber hose blocking that off, same as I've got the top covered. This is the return fuel line here, goes up to the front of the car. That's the brake line. I just had that up out of the way, so now it'll go here. Then I'll tighten up those bolts, and the tank should be happy. And then that rubber hose goes, you can see that rubber hose up in there. From the end of the steel pipe it goes, well, it's aluminum alloy pipe of some sort. From the end of that pipe it goes up into that collector up above there. I haven't got it hooked yet. I'll hook it up after a little while here. It wasn't that tough. Once it, here's where I had problems. You got to sort of get it up over this lip here and then push it up, then push the end piece up there, like that, where you put the fuel in, push that up into the right place, and then you got to, once you have that sort of lined up, then pull it back down, tighten up the clamp on that rubber hose there at the bottom, and then push it back up into place again. Sort of a double thing. Anyway, it's there. I'll tighten them up. I just take my little impact wrench and bang them in there. Yeah, now another thing I've discovered with this camera is that you can turn the flashlight on when you're filming. That makes it so that I have light underneath here. Anyway, I went and I painted up all this stuff that the flooring that I put it in here. I've got that painted up with a black coat of paint. Next thing is fuel line from here. I'm going to mount the pump right about here, I think. So I'll have a rubber fuel line. I'll mount the pump maybe up there somewhere. I'll have a rubber fuel line going to the pump, and then another line going out to the rest of the world. But I'll figure out where the pump goes first. Yeah, so here's the fuel pump. It says in the instructions to mount it close to and below the fuel tank. So I guess that would qualify right there. This side over here is the intake line, so I'll just have a rubber hose coming from the fuel tank down to there. And then I'll have this side here goes out to the, you can't see it behind my hand, but there's a nozzle at the other end here that goes out to the world, to the motor. So I'll put a fuel line in. It goes across, I'll show you where. The way that it came out of the factory, the fuel line that came across here, whoops, where am I pointing? Across the top here, and in behind that, and then down somewhere in here, right about there somewhere, down to here, and then along, then straight down here, and then along through there. Kind of a funny place to put a fuel line, but I guess that's where it goes. My other option is to put it down the tunnel here beside that other one, but that's not the way it was in the factory, and it might be a safety concern, so it doesn't get tangled up in the running gear or something like that. So I'll just do things the same way they did it in the factory. See if I can get that piece to, that line to go up there and across. That'll be a challenge, but we'll work on it. I see that there's some welding to do here before I do that, because there's a little bit of an opening there that I didn't know was there. Yep, gotta fix that. Anyway, I'll carry on. Yeah, so here's something that I did that helps. I don't know, it's ugly, but that plastic liner that you have inside your helmet that always gets dust in behind it, put a bit of tape like that over it, and it'll keep the dust out. A little bit of tape like that over it keeps the dust out. And from in between the two, then you just have to clean the outside and not take it apart all the time and scratch it up. Seems to help quite a bit. Yeah, there are the fuel pumps in place. Now I get a piece of rubber hose that goes just, it'll have a shallow, I'll put enough hose on there so it doesn't kink. In fact, I could likely make a piece of steel hose for the round bits and just hook it at each end. I'll see. Yeah, here we are now. The fuel line goes into the motor compartment right there. And then I've got it clamped here, follows around this curve, got it clamped there. Very difficult to bend this stuff. It's heavy duty line. Then it goes along here. Got it clamped here, got it clamped here. And then it goes up into the car there. That gets into the, right in here. There it is. So I'll just give it a bit of a bend there. And I'll likely clamp it up there somewhere. And then make a hose. See if I can make a hose from there to there. See how that works out. We'll figure it out. Yeah, so there's where it comes into the car right there. And then the fuel lines up here join that to that. And it won't be too much of a reach to put a hose right from there to about here somewhere. So that's good. That'll be fine. Now the next thing I have to do is, one of these days I have to fix this wire here because it's just about chewed through. That's the ground wire. Now, then what I'll do is I'll run a wire down on the inside of the car. I think it goes into the car right about there somewhere, for power to that thing there. Yeah, now that I've started working on mechanical stuff again, I finally put some oil in the motor. I forgot all about it. And I'd go and try to start it up with no motor oil in it. So anyhow, that thing's full of oil. And it even has a new filter on it down there, right down there. So I imagine I'll get it started and run it a few times, then I'll change it again because that'll get all the yuck out of it, I hope. We'll see how that goes. So now, back onto the gas tank. Yeah. So, I went looking for a wire to hook on. See that red wire I've got there? I want to run that back to the fuel pump. I was looking for a wire that would work off the ignition, so when you turn on the ignition, fuel pump starts. And I found one, but then in that same group of wires, I found a burnt wire. So that means I have to take all this dash off here and see if I can find, I'll track down, see all the wires right there, that's all hooked together. I don't think you can get them confused, but I'll give it my best shot to get them confused. Then there's some pretty shoddy, there's some kind of interesting, I'll call it interesting wiring, like this little bundle right there, which is, there was a wire from here going somewhere. I haven't tracked down the other end of it, but I cut it off, and the same thing happened right here. There was a wire going from here down to the light on the oil pressure sensor gauge, which is a aftermarket pressure sensor gauge they stuck in it, and you know, it's a good gauge, nothing wrong with it, but just means that I have more stuff to take apart. So now there's two more bolts at the back here to take out of, one right about underneath that, one underneath over there, and I hope then the dashboard stuff will come off. But first I'll get the vacuum cleaner in and clean out the squirrel's nest. Yeah, there it is. Now I've tracked down that wire that's broken, and I can see inside the car over there there's a little bit of rust. I'll check that out. And this side here is all okay. I'll just check that out right now before I get too far into it, and then I'll know if I have to take the windshield out. And if I have to take the windshield out, then that's going to be a real issue. There is a bit of rust in there, but I think I can live with it. I think that there's a bit of a leak in the windshield there. Maybe it was a previous windshield of this one, or maybe it was this windshield. But that little bit right there, I'll just cut that away. Can you see that? Right here. I'll cut that away and see if I can fix that up a bit. The other side is good, so it's only just right underneath here. I think we're okay. I'm not going to get too involved in that anyhow, because then I don't really want to take out the windshield if I don't have to. Oops. Guess I got to take these things here off. These covers I'll take off the inside here. And you can see everything here. Now there's a inspection by somebody, right? In case of complaint, please return the label of the faulty component. Hey, I'll do that. Well, first off, I'll get the vacuum cleaner and just see if I can clean that up in there a bit. This is the speedometer. Don't know what the hell that is. Oh, that's something to do with, oh, that's to turn the mileage to 0 in your trip meter. This one here is for setting the clock. Oh, cool. So you can set the clock with that one there, which I'm pretty sure doesn't work anyhow, but we'll set it to the right time. And I think the tachometer is electronic, so it's just a matter of getting that figured out properly. There's a bad wire somewhere because it was zooming in and out when I was running it. And the steering wheel's down there, but I can put the steering wheel back up and I can hook up all the wires again so that I can make it run and get things working before I put it back together, the dash. Hey, anyway, there we go. 5 steps back and 1 step ahead. Yeah, there, excuse me. Now well, over there in that corner where the rust is, that was from the repair when it was hit there, so this must be a new windshield back whenever that happened. And you can see that they repaired and welded along there, but they never ever put any paint on it, so I'll just give it a little bit of a paint job over there, clean it up, give it a bit of a paint job, and it should be okay. The other little bit of rust around that, like there's a hole that looks like this over there, I'm going to just cut that hole bigger and clean it up a bit, and that'll be fine. Yeah, then so between the squirrels and the spiders, there's quite a community living in here. I think I got it mostly vacuumed out, but I'll start working on figuring out the wiring, find the wire that's bad. There's only one wire that's bad. I just want to make sure that it hasn't impacted any of the wires next to it, so I have a problem down the road. There you go. And then I'll figure out the fuse box, which is just an awful mess there. Somebody's been dealing with it. And then we'll maybe get things to start working on the car. Yeah, what a mess of wiring. But must have been a pretty exciting day when this thing here went. And it didn't seem to impact too much else. This wire here needs a little bit of help. I'll fix that wire. And I'll fix a few other wires along the way here. This thing here, like I think that's not even part of the wiring harness. That's just somebody's addition to for the radio, or new radio, old radio. But I'll carry on through and see what else I can find. There's a bad spot right there. That's in one of the main wires. This thing here, I think that's a factory thing where they put it all together like that. It wouldn't pass code today, I don't think, but it passed code back then. Anyway, I'll carry on and see what I can find. Like there's more of the burnt stuff up here, eh? So I'll have to just untangle that all the way back to the, I discovered it over by the ignition, so I'll just untangle it all the way back to the ignition, and then I'll tape it all up again, and well, I'll put a new wire in there. Don't know what for. Yeah, so there, now there's all the refuse and debris. But here's the wire that was burned, and I've got it separated from everything. It got in, there was about 2 spots all the way along where it got, you know, what I'd call hot. And so at those points, or my underwear is pointing there, eh? So at those points, I took a good close look at the wire. Like here's a spot here that it looks pretty ugly, but that's where are you? It looks pretty ugly, but that's the old, like that's the brown wire on the edge of that thing. And I'll take a knife and scrape it off and just see how it looks underneath. Then all the way along, I found only about 2 or 3 spots like that, except for down towards the end here, like this wire here. It might be suspect along here, down to here. And then there's a couple of wires, a couple of these purple wires I saw. But I'll take down towards this end of the wiring, like there's a spot right here that's suspect. A couple of spots that are a little bit suspect, where they all got melted together. So that will be for tomorrow. For today, I'm done with this whole half of it here, and except for this bit here where it was arcing, that was a completely different problem than shorting problem. But maybe it was a contributor. So that wire here, this short wire here, the one that's burnt, goes to the back lights somewhere. So I'll see if I can track down which light it went to and see why it shorted out. From here, I think it actually shorted out somewhere, not here. But beyond this connector here, if you go past this connector, there's no hot to the wire, like the wire didn't get hot back there. So it must have just arced here somehow or other. I don't know, but we'll find out. We'll just put a new wire in. Yeah, it's fixing up a set of skis for Gus for his Skidoo, or Yamaha. There's what was formerly called a ski there. They're holy skis, and they had no skags left on them. So anyhow, I call them, they're called runners, I guess, but I call them skags. So we ordered these ones from a place in Ontario, and then just put the springs on them, and everything seems to fit nice. And then that precipitated having this out, because I was looking to get bushings for in the back there. In the back of it, right back at the bottom there, there's supposed to be a bushing in there, which was frozen into the old bolt. But I found some nice plastic tubing, and I put a plastic bushing in there just to keep them from whacking around too much. And that should be fine. But doing that, I was figuring I'd use a bushing out of these, because I got to change that rubbers, which I have new ones for it. And, well, don't you know, I got the press out, so I might as well get these things all. I've got that one, which is the link connection for the suspension on the back. I've got another one like that, and I've got 2 of these control arm things that I have to get the rubber bushings out of. So I'll show you how. I'll do one right now. Yeah, so I took this thing here, and I cleaned off the rubber on this side so I can have something to put the have a backing for the, whatever you call that thing, the press over there. I got to put a piece of steel so I can push straight down. So I'll give that a try now. Yeah, there we go. It's all set in there now. So I've got this about the center, and then I've put where I cleaned off the edge of that thing. I just put it on the edge of this steel here, and then you press them through. It'll go pop. Goes the weasel in a second here. One done. So there now. There it is, nice and clean in there like a whistle. And there's the old bushing. The old bushing's actually not in too bad a shape, but I have new ones. Now I got to do the same thing for this side. Yeah, here I go with number 2. Give it some light in there. Yeah, the light's on. So now, the very important to get it all lined up straight up and down, and have something solid underneath it. And away it goes, and it just pushes that through, just like you never. No problems with these things. Number 2 done. Have to just loosen it up here. There we go. That one's out. Nice and clean. So those 2 are out of there. Now for that one there, I put this piece of round stock down, which is an old bearing, and then I just put this on it so that I give it equal support around it. And that seemed to be able to push them out all right. And that's what I'll do with the other one that looks like this, and I'll carry on. Yeah, now it's back to this task at hand, which is all this. All that wiring up there, all the way back and forth is good. I've found no other problems except for that one wire. But down here, I'll have to go through these wires and just do a little bit of cutting and pasting to get them about right. Yeah, this stuff here is hard on the brain. Anyway, I've got most of everything solved. All the bad wires I cut out and I put in a new piece of wire for it. And I got this, this handy dandy thing here. It's turned into my favorite tool for wiring, because you know when you're using butt connectors, you can never get them to tighten down right. This tool here ratchets so you don't lose grip, and it's solid so you don't lose grip. So anyhow, handy tool for doing any sort of those connector things. I didn't want to do all like here I just put a new piece of wire in here where it was bad wire, and then I hooked it onto the existing wire that's good wire. They were up against one wire that got hot, and that's that wire right there. And so it still goes. I still have to track it. It goes into that connector over there and into the motor compartment. Still haven't finished tracking that one down. I don't know what it was for, but it came off the ignition switch. So when you turned on the ignition switch, it got power for whatever reason. Anyway, that's enough of this for today, and I'll try getting back at it tomorrow. I think I might try and replace this fuse box. All these connectors here are rusty in there, and I might trade it out for, there's only 10 things in there, so I might be able to trade it out for a little fuse box that has 10 spade connectors instead of that kind of fuses. Anyhow, I'll see what I can do. Yeah, now there's a hot mess. So this all started from, I was, well, here I am. It's a new day, Friday. So anyhow, Friday today. You can watch maybe Monday or Tuesday, and there might be another video, because we're getting our first real snowstorm of the season. So I have to be moving some snow later on, maybe tomorrow. Sounds like 40 centimeters. That's over a foot of snow. Well, that's quite a bit. Anyway, back to the task at hand here. So it all started. I was putting the gas tank in. Now you watched that the other day, right? Putting the gas tank in. Turn on the video, or turn on the light there. So the gas tank's in, and then I mounted the fuel pump over there, and I've got all the gas lines in, going there and back. So I was looking for a light, for a I was looking on the ignition for a wire that was hot when the ignition's turned on, and I was going to run that connection down to the fuel pump, so that when you turn on the ignition, electric fuel pump starts up. The original fuel pump on the car is one that's on the motor. It's one of those mechanical ones that goes thumpty thump thump thump. But electric ones are more reliable these days. So anyway, I digress. So I looked on here. I'll have to get around to where I can see this stuff. Here we are. And I found a bunch of sketchy wiring. Like here's one bit of sketchy wiring right there. I don't know where that one goes to. And then I found this wire here, which is a, can you see that? There's a kind of a red wire coming off right there. That one lights up when the ignition turns on, but the wire was burnt. So, and it burnt all the way down through here. And you can see where it sort of touched, this debris here is where it touched. So I said to myself, I better follow that all the way down through the wiring of the whole thing. See if I can find, like here's the wire. I think I've shown you this before. It's a sad wire. So it goes, I've got it tracked to here, and I've got it tracked to, I got to get in there somehow. I'll show you. I got it tracked to, perhaps, no, not that one, but I'll find the connector. Not that connector. There's only like 3 or 4 connectors here, and I can't find the right one, right? Not that one. Yep. Anyway, but it hooks on to, where am I? That one right there, and then it goes into the motor compartment. So that you can see that brown wire right on the top of that thing right there. That's the offending wire. So I still have to track it down through that wiring harness through there and see what if I can find where it went. Then I'll find out where it went. I'll find out why it failed, and then I'll replace the new one. But while I was at it here, here's the fuse box. And the fuse box, all of these things are all just rusty and likely bad. And so you'd be getting a lot of bad connections. So what I'll do is I'll light it up and I'll see what comes, which one of these things all come positive. Then I'll know where the positive side is, and then I'll know where the negative side is, or it's not a negative side because it's just the connector side, but one side of it always, there's one side that's always got the positive, and then it goes through the fuse and comes out the other side to the junction. So I'll find out all the positives on here, then I'll put in a new, like I found a new fuse box, but it's not exactly right. So this thing here, this fuse box comes from Princess's Auto. Not a bad little thing, but it's only like, it's what they call a bus bar. So here's your positive connection comes on to here from the battery, and then all your fuses go out from that. So that's not the way this thing here is laid out. So I've ordered off of Amazon a fuse box with 12 connectors. This has only got 10 real connections in it. So I've ordered a fuse box with 12 connectors in it, and I'm going to replicate the way that this is put together, but using spade fuses and make it right, make it better than what it is right now, or make it equally as good as maybe when it came out of the factory. And it's only bad because these, like this has been around for 40 years and all these little connectors are rusted. And once they're rusted, then you start getting bad connections, and so there you go. There's also right over there, that's the wire that goes to the heater, and it was arcing, and so I have to replace that connector with one of my, I got a box full of connectors over there, so I'll replace it with one of those and make that better. Anyway, that's today's challenge, is just to find where that wire went, find out what it was for, maybe, and then try and get it all back together. Yeah, no, here's a question for anybody who knows the answer. Can't really read that, but it says 125 something, maybe 125.1. And it's a resistor or something like that, and it hooks on. I know where it hooks because I've been there. So it hooks on to the system. A brown wire. Where's that brown wire? Right here. I think it goes into this. Yeah, there it is right there. So it hooks into this system here. Whoops, there. I'm pointing the wrong way. Right there. Hooks into this little magic box, which is a Lucas, you know, what do you call these damn things? Relay switch. 1, 2, 3 or 4-way relay switch. 1, 2, 3, 4-way relay switch. And I don't know that it does very much, except that one side of it hooks to this, then the other side hooks to this wire here, which, where is it? There we are. Can't find it. There it is. Like this wire here was just hanging out there empty, doing nothing. So I wonder what it's for, and if anybody out there knows the answer to that, that would be appreciated. I'd hook it up again properly, because I'm sure it does something. Likely, I wouldn't be surprised if it's something to do with the heater systems there. They often use little resistors like that. Yeah, now here's the offending wire and stuff. I took it out of the car. This part here goes into the car over at that hole right over there, and it comes out in here underneath the on top of the transmission part there, or on top of that bell housing. Then it goes to different places. Now I think this wire here was fixed. It's directly onto the battery, like that's off the battery thing. Then I pulled that wire out. I don't know why it's all taped up, but I'll take the tape off there and see what's going on with it. I don't know. And then over here, there's a couple of things that have been kind of fixed. There's a purple wire. This wire here is a red wire coming out of somewhere in here. Now I know this one here, I have it going to the what do you call that? The coil. These wires over here, these ones here go into the back of the alternator. That one there is for the temperature sensor. These two wires are just, they hang around, they're unknown. I don't know what the hell they're for. This stuff here goes in behind the transmission. I imagine it's the reverse lights and stuff like that. These ones, like I said, are in the car. This stuff here goes all to the starter. That's for the starter, and that one there goes to the starter. But I'm gonna take all the tape off here and see what's happened, because this has all been retaped at some point in its past. Yeah, wiring. So this thing here, this wire here, my English is getting better and better all the time. Anyway, it goes into this bracket here, which slides into the back of the alternator. That wire has been corrupted, like it used to be a different color. That wire there is in bad shape, so I'll see about, but I'll find out where they go in here, and maybe I'll just trade the whole wire out somehow or other. And it looks like this purple wire here, yeah, is again changed colors up here. So somebody's already put a new wire in there one time. Oh, I don't know. See what happens. Yeah, so this white with purple on it is supposed to go to the oil pressure switch, and it's ratted out up here. I don't know, somebody put a new connector on there. So that's for the oil pressure switch. I'll put a new wire on that and see what I can figure out. Somebody else has changed here. I don't know, the brown wire is supposed to be hot, or the, oh dear. Anyhow, I may just eliminate that wire from it, because it's got it's already got an oil pressure gauge in there that's factory, not a factory gauge, it's the added on option. Yeah, that wire there, which is to the oil pressure switch as near as I can guess. It's the wire that hit on here and is the one that burned everywhere. So it looks like this thing here, which is an add-on of somebody's along the way, I bet you it shorted out on something and created the fire. I'll see if I can find it. I've got the wiring diagram here. See? So I'll find the ignition switch on here somewhere. See where the white and purple is and see if that's the one that's, well, it's a brown and purple or something that comes down to the other end. Anyhow, I'll see if I can figure it out. So, mystery kind of solved. This wire here, which is supposed to be brown with purple on it, right? And it goes all the way back here and blah, blah, blah. And through here, it goes right to here, 94, which is oil pressure switch, or yeah, 90, I think that's oil pressure switch. 69 is also oil pressure switch, so this is the white and purple one comes into it from here, and this is 94, this one here goes into that, like that's the hot switch for the oil pressure switch. Hot wire for the oil pressure switch. Somebody in its life added this onto it, and so all of a sudden it got grounded out and created a fire, which created havoc amongst a lot of other stuff. So I can take out all of that oil pressure switch sensing stuff here, and I'll leave some dummy wires just hanging out up here so I know what they are. I'll put a piece of paper on them so that I know what they are. Then I can sort of start putting it back together and check out where all the fuses go, which are somebody, well, somebody who wasn't me, haha. Anyhow, the fuse box is empty. So I'll get all the wiring back into place. I don't have to have the dashboard into place to get the wiring in. I'll get all the wiring in, hook up the battery, and just see what comes hot here and see what makes what run. Then I'll start labeling some fuses, get ready for a new fuse box. Anyway, that's a bit of progress on it. It may not seem like much, but at least like I really like to know where, if a fire started, I don't want it to start again. So I think this is where the fire started. And that's my story. I'm going to stick to it. And I'm happy with that story. There we go. Yeah, so just when I thought it was safe to go back in the water, anyhow, this connector here, which goes down back into the transmission tunnel, and I'll check out what it goes to down there. But these things here must have all touched each other and got fried somehow. I'll have a new connector in there, a four-way connector, which is what I need here. And I'll see about putting a new connector on it, and then I'll see what happens underneath here. I'll look at that. I'll put the car up and take a look right now. Well, now there's a new, I put the new wires on from here all the way up to the front, and I put a new connector at the front up here. There it is out here. Where is it? Right there. Then I'll go into the wiring harness. Now I'm going to let the car down again, and I'll fix up. There's ground wires that need fixing. Yeah, here we are. It's snowstorm today, January sometime. Anyhow, at noontime there was 0 snow, and it's 5 o'clock now, and there's about 5 inches of snow on the settled, and it's going to snow all night, so it'll be a lot for tomorrow. Here now, I made a new ground wire this is from the body of the car to here, and a new ground wire, this one here, will go from the engine, but then it's also got a ground wire that goes over to the body of the car. It seems to be grounded pretty good there. So there's 2 ground points on the car and 1 ground point on the motor, and so I'll put that up and put a new clippy thing on the battery. I wonder where that is. Here it is. So this new clippy thing goes on the battery. So that'll be a happy system, I think. Yeah, what a mess of wires. Anyhow, I think I've got this wiring harness sorted out so that it's right now. This part here goes to the alternator. I put new wires all the way from here right to the end of it, and I put new wires. There's a wire here that goes to the that goes up to the temperature sensor. These two wires were to the down below. This one here goes to the switch for the reverse light. These two wires were in there, but then they were joined together. I don't know what they're for. Maybe I'll find out one of these days. This wire here, that's the field wire for the alternator. So it goes up. It's a new wire all the way along. These two wires here, they both go to the coil. One is, let me see, how does it work? One comes off of the, I don't know which one's which, but one of them comes off, I can find out. One comes off of the starter and goes to the coil. Like when you hit the starter button, it automatically fires up this other wire to go to the coil, so that the coil's got 12 volts of energy all the time, because this other wire that comes off just a normal ignition might lose some voltage when it's trying to start the starter. Does that make any sense? That's the way it works anyhow. Then these two wires, don't know. They're out there, and they were covered up in the wiring harness before, so I'd left them out to see if I can find out what they're for. This wire here, what the hell does this one do? Well, this one goes over to the starter. This is the wire, this wire here, the red one, comes out over here, and it goes up to the, I think it's that wire there that goes up to the coil to give it a boost when you're trying to start the car. This other one here is off the ignition, so that when you release the starter, there still has energy going to the coil from this one. Anyway, that would be my story. So that's sorted out, and I got all the burnt wires out of it. There was a bunch of burnt wires. This part here is going to take some sorting, but I'm happier with it now, and I've found all the burnt wires and cleared them out, and I'm happy with the wires that are in it. I'm going to hook it all together next week and put it together without the dashboard in there, and then try and figure out what's supposed to go where through the fuse box. I can do that. Anyhow, that's all for this week, and we'll carry on next week, and hope you enjoy it. See what's and lots of, like, where the car leads you is where you go sometimes. There we go. See you next week.